Greg, I met this cat about 4 years ago. He's a devil doc, strong dude. He has a heart of a warrior. We were just catching up just a little bit before we jumped on, and this man right here, he still actually has that fighting warrior spirit. When I met him, he just re-energized me. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing incredible, Will. Thank you for inviting me on your show. Grateful to be able to connect with you and definitely your audience. And thanks for the kudos, man. It was a pleasure. It was an honor to have crossed paths, as we were just talking about 4 years ago, downrange in a different service mindset of being disaster responders and continuing that ethos of really just service and that warrior mindset of like saying, hey, wherever there's a need, we're going to run into that battle. And yeah, it was great to cross paths then. And I'm grateful to circle back right
Yeah.
now and really have a deep conversation, man. We share a lot that we have in common. And I know that I believe that some of the conversation here, anybody that's listening, the conversation we have, it could truly unlock something in somebody else. And that's why we're doing this, I think.
Yeah, we've both been through our own hardships. If I remember correctly, you were a little bit older than me. You're in your later 40s, correct?
Yeah, 47 years young. Um,
That's an understatement right there. 47 years young for you.
47 years young. Everybody gets caught up on the hair. They don't believe that the hair's real, man, but it's like, you can check, man. I got real hair. Um, and I got a lot of battle scars, bro. And the coolest thing about it is I've learned how to, the most important thing along my journey, there's a lot of important lessons, but one of the things that's really empowered me, it's about empowering ourselves, is that I've learned how to no longer define myself by the past, but to be refined by the past so that I can truly continue to execute at a high level here and now and moving into the future.
Man, it's I actually will say a lot of times our own past, our own trials and tribulations are become the old obstacles, ways of thinking, and we take the chance to actually learn how to navigate them to become stronger, wiser, and be able to teach others how to continue to push through or motivate them to challenge their own obstacles.
Yeah.
So, what I usually like to do is to dive a little bit into where you from, what actually, how was your childhood, and then we'll jump into the why you chose to be a corpsman.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I was born and raised in northern New Mexico, a place called Santa Fe. It's the oldest state capital in the US. If you haven't been here, it's an incredible destination, small town. And I was born into a situation of extreme violence in terms of what I've experienced in my life. My mother was already passing, she was a teenage mom. She was already passing stress hormones and her cortisol into me in vitro. My father was a very violent man, just, beat down old school medieval shit. And I actually remember being born, and it's one of those things where I didn't want to be born. And anybody listening, back in the day, they if you were like kind of a stubborn child, they would actually use force snips to pull you out. And so I had to get pulled out of the womb. And along my journey, it's kind of, it makes sense because I knew that this life this time around was going to be an incredible challenge, and it has. Because when I look back at my experiences as a child and as I guide many people through their spiritual healing journey, what I realize is that 0 to 10, right? 0 to 10 is when all these survival programs happen. And when I talk about survival, I'm talking about the trauma. That's where the traumatic wounds happen. And that's where we write the programs for how we are going to show up 100% of the time in difficult situations. And so I realized that when I look back, man, on my childhood, I spent a lot of time outdoors. I spent a lot of time in nature. I was an only child till about the age of 12. My mom started a new family. And I always tell people that we all have this experience, that there was a point in your childhood, depending on what you experienced, that you told yourself a story saying, all right, enough of the kid shit. It's time to grow up. And for me, I was 12 years old. And it's kind of funny. This is actually a funny story. Part of me growing up was, I attracted a lot of other young juvenile delinquents, as I would label us, that also were having to kind of grow up and not really be parented. And we made a lot of bad decisions. When you're 12 years old, you're making a lot of bad decisions. And it's interesting that where I'm actually located right now is a mall on the south side of Santa Fe, and I'm outside of a store that I'm not proud of this, but I know it was just a part of my own upbringing of, my mom struggling back in the day and just kind of never having enough to meet not only my needs, but just anytime I did have an ask, it always felt like it was stressing her, man. It was straining her out. And so I really started to say, I don't want to put that stress on her. So I'm going to make things happen on my own. And a big part of that was I used to get in a lot of trouble. I used to steal a lot of stuff. And it's funny, I'm at a mall, man. I used to steal a lot of shit out of this, like designer stuff, because my mom couldn't get it. And everyone else around me had it. And, it was early on that I started looking for ways to cut corners. And, the other thing that I learned pretty early on was I learned that I had a real attraction to alcohol.
Hmm.
And so I come to you today on the show, going on my 14th year of sobriety. I did hit a rock bottom. I've hit multiple rock bottoms. I'm very transparent about my story. I've had one DWI, wasn't enough. Two DWI, still not enough. A domestic violence arrest, finally, right? Finally saying I have to change. And so I've been on a 14-year healing journey. What I realized with my relationship with my mom was that we had what's considered a trauma bonding, and it also created codependency. And so as I look back, I can tell that in most of the relationships that I had, that I was being serious of thinking that I want this person in my life. What I was really trying to do at a subconscious level was to to find the next mommy that I felt I had lost when I was 12 years old, when she started another family, and I wrote a story of abandonment to myself. And
It's,
so,
I was going to say that's rough, man. It's especially when you're a kid, you're just over here just trying to be seen by your parents, by your mom, and you're doing different things just to be able to get what you want, and you're not able to receive that.
yeah, and one of the things I've learned is that if anybody out there's listening, and maybe you're starting to connect or starting to feel like you already feel like something's wrong with you and you're ashamed of it, research has shown that the normal is having trauma in your childhood, is having dysfunctional relationships. That's the norm. And by norm, I mean that is the majority of people. But yet we're so ashamed of these things. We're so embarrassed by these things that we hide it. We really do hide it. And I'll tell you about trauma, man. The thing about trauma, it's an emotional wound. So we don't
Hmm.
always see it. But here's the thing about trauma and how it's different from other wounds. If I was to get a paper cut, everyone's probably had a paper cut at one time of their life. If I was to agitate it and literally do everything I could to stop the paper cut from healing, it wouldn't work. It would actually heal with time. I could try and irritate it and mess it up. It still would heal. There would be a scar, but it would heal. If I was to get sick, right, a little bit of rest, some chicken noodle soup or whatever your thing is, lots of water, lots of fluids, but with some time, right, my immune system would combat whatever the virus was, and I would heal. I'd get back to feeling powerful, strong, and ready to re-engage. But here's the thing that most of us have never learned about trauma, which is an emotional wound. It doesn't heal and it doesn't go away. Time will not make it go away. And so what most of us do is we take these things from our childhood and we say, enough's enough. Time to grow up. Let me sweep all this shit under the rug. Let me get rid of this stuff and act as if somehow I'm moving on. I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm closing it off and it's gone. The thing is we may be done with it, but it's not done with us. And that has been the thing I have learned. And where that gets then taken to the next level is I learned something called self-control. We've all heard it. Self-control. Can you control yourself?
Hmm.
And the thing is that works 99% of the time. That one time that you lose control, especially me, and again, if we're talking to any kind of an audience, but definitely if there's any military members, I am a veteran that has been diagnosed PTSD. And again, that one time that I lost control, guess what? That shit fucked me up, man.
Hmm.
Because it didn't just mess me up. You know how many people I hurt that I cared about because I lost control? So it's not about control, Will. It's about self-awareness.
Hmm.
And that's one of the hardest things to do is for us to sit with ourselves and figure out what in the heck has happened so that we can make peace with it.
I like to say that the trauma is actually trying to strip it from it is by removing the emotions from the memories. It is actually understanding what was the emotions that was created. But it's not, they have this saying, it's not always what you say, it's how you made them feel. And honestly, like it's not uncommon when we hear about kids asking their parents for love, to be able to be seen, to be heard, and having rigorous parents, and it creates this whole narrative of, you know what, if you're not going to do it for me, I'm going to do it myself. And it creates this other loop of like tendencies, like the DUIs, the domestic. These are all symptoms of past traumas and ways that we were not able to be shown how to communicate effectively. It's the substance abuse is usually just a symptom of a past trauma.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what I've learned throughout my own journey is that the alcohol is not the problem. The drugs weren't the problem, right? I'm the problem. I was the problem. And when I turn my problem onto myself, that means I can empower myself because that means I have the solutions. And the solution is to give yourself to realize what can you change and what can't you change. You cannot change what has happened. But if you have the courage and strength to sit there and do that life review, that's what it takes. It's doing a life review in the now, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to now, and literally just chalking up all the significant events, the good and the bad. And when you start to look back with real courage and honesty, with compassion, not judgment, not guilt, not shame, like you said, disconnect. It's called neutrality. Real
Hmm.
healing is when you can look back. Like if you were to point, you just mentioned some of the most things that I'm the most, in the past, I was the most ashamed of. I didn't want anybody to ever know I have DWIs, to be a domestic wife beater type, you know? And it's like, but when you say it now, it has no power because I have taken my power back and I have refined myself saying, what is the lesson here for me? How can I empower myself? And that is what I can change versus saying, I can't change what happened. Part of me wishes I could, but I know that everything happens for me and not to me. And there is incredible power in being able to sit in neutrality, not being too high, not being too low, and to hold that energy and say, I accept that this happened and I
Hmm.
take responsibility for it. And I don't have to stay wounded. I can grow. I can change everything I want about myself, but I have to make that choice.
That's freaking deep. When I look at when we're having all these like hiccups, I kind of look at the door, somebody knocking at the door, and a lot of times it starts off quiet till somebody's banging on the door. And if we don't pay attention, these other shits just happen. So I fully agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, we also have the warning signs. So they always say that the first one, right? It comes as a whisper. Hey,
Hmm.
you need to probably stop doing that. It's not helping you. And you're like, huh? What? What? Yeah, I don't. Did I hear something? I don't know if I heard anything. And then next, if you disregard that kind of warning sign, then it comes as a knock, 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 and you open the door and no one's there, but there's a note,
Hmm.
and that note says, "Hey, you're kind of headed down the wrong path. Maybe you want to consider some other options." What the hell's this? Who's that for? you know? And then what you ignore that, well, then the knock comes up alongside your head.
Hmm.
Hey, hey, trying to get your attention here. And you ignore that, it's a shout, right? At that point, it's a shout. If you blow past that, then you're gonna have an upheaval. And that's what it took me, man. I had to hit rock bottom. I had to be broken into pieces. But that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because that gate, I knew there was obviously things can always get worse. But I knew at that point, man, I was done. I was done with the relationship. I always consider the addictions as relationships. I was done for good with the alcohol, right? Masking the pain, because I think you had just mentioned it, but all the addictions, they say all addictions, I'm a big fan of Gabor Mate. All addictions are rooted in childhood trauma, because what we are trying to do with addiction is it is our way of trying to alleviate ourselves from pain. And
Hmm.
it's actually sincere. It's actually compassionate towards ourselves. It's just unfortunate that the things that are most readily available and easily accessible to us are things that actually never heal the pain. They just numb it, and most of the times it makes it worse.
They call that a toxic mimic. It's actually meant to make you feel good. It's like having a piece of candy, but it actually does more damage than it does good. It's like that self-soothing for a split second for longer term pain. So yeah.
Mm.
So I'll switch it to I want to bring it back because obviously this is where you're at in the future. Why did you choose to become a corpsman? Why did you choose to work with the Marines?
That's a good question. Um, I'm one of these guys that says, you know what? I don't know if I chose it or if it chose me. I knew I always had a servant's heart. I knew I needed, I mean, a big part here in northern New Mexico, small towns, straight up stats, man. Like we're worst in child welfare, we're worst in the country in education, we're worst in like per capita drug addictions. Like my heart aches for my home state because of the suffering that is all around me. And I was a part of that as a child, right? Like I started my relationship with alcohol as an addict. By the time I was 15, 16 years old, it just got worse. But it's like, it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I finally said, man, I'm done. And so if you rewind it back into my high school years, man, I was getting in this. I mean, back then we used to throw major parties, but I used to fight a lot too, man. Like the juvenile delinquent was out of hand. And I'd had a buddy of mine that got stabbed in high school, and I felt like we were getting in fights on a regular basis. Like frequency was like multiple times a week, like really violent fights, fist fights, brawls. Um, and so to me, the military was a way out, man. It was
Hmm.
actually the way out. It was the way for me to get the hell out of this place. And rescue, it was like a self-rescue, right? I mean, I joined when I was 17 years old. I was lucky enough that there was something inside of me that I always played ball. I was an exceptional athlete. And in order to be an athlete, you had to get good grades. And so I just, I figured out a way to manage both of those things. And I created a mantra back then, which is work hard, play hard. And the playing wasn't always playing ball. It was like, fucking around and doing the things that probably I wish if I could go back with the version I am now, you know, I would give anything to be able to re-mentor that that child. And I signed up. I was actually did NJROTC, so that's what kind of leaned me towards the Navy. I had a friend of mine that his brother-in-law was a ex-Navy SEAL, so he kind of inspired going into the Navy, and he kind of groomed us to say, if you're going to go into the Navy, you probably should go corpsman, right? It's one of the best jobs out there. I didn't have a clue about the Marines, man. And so, I got a good grade. I got a good score on the ASVAB. I was able to get into core school, guaranteed. And it wasn't until I was at core school at at, at the Balboa, which is back in the day in San Diego, that when we were given the opportunity to select orders, there was like hospitals and ships and the traditional Navy stuff, and then for some reason there was something that said one mar div. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm like, what the hell is that, man? One mar div, what's that? And they're like, oh yeah, you didn't know you could go with the Marines? And I'm like, go with the Marines? Shoot, okay. I was a little intimidated by the Marines because when I got in, this was 96, they had came out with this one movie called The Rock, and there was like all these really studly like force recon types, man. So I thought all Marines were force recon, and me and a handful of my homies, we said, I mean, we were just the type, right? We weren't the hospital types, we weren't really the ship types, and they said you guys would probably be all right over there with the Marines, and so I went one more div. The one thing I didn't realize is that once you go green side, you can't go blue side, man. You're like you're damaged goods. You're damaged goods. They didn't want me back. They're like, nah, man, no. Wait, you can't come back over here. Like,
You're too fucked up at that point, bud. You really just drank the Kool-Aid and you're like, you're fucking tainted.
yeah, it was that way, but it was the greatest experience of my life, man. It really was. I had a, I had some incredible opportunities to serve along some of the most incredible men that I've ever known. And I got to do some high speed, low drag stuff. I served with the Scout Sniper Platoon. I also served with what was called the Trailer Platoon, part of a Maritime Special Purpose Force. So I got to serve with Force Recon and Navy SEALs and Scout Snipers and going down range doing, high speed stuff. And it was an incredible journey, man. I wouldn't exchange that for anything. I think it's probably the most incredible bond in all the military, which is a platoon corpsman and his Marines. And, I say his because back then there wasn't a lot of females in the platoons, especially infantry. Now things have changed and that's cool. But, that bond between Navy corpsmen and U.S. Marines, especially in the grunts, it's a it's that's an almost unbreakable bond.
The docs that we had, absolutely amazing. I had a guy, Ortiz. He tried to get into the SEALs. Awesome dude, stellar fucking swimmer, just athlete. Chris Van Gelder, such a sweetheart of a guy. He's about to get ready to retire soon from being a corpsman. But the way that they took care of us, absolutely amazing. It was just like, hey doc, I got this. All right, I got you. And it was not like this whole like impersonal doctor visit. I'm like, doc, I got something on my ass. Can you actually fix this for me? And he's like, "No, dude, I don't do that stuff. You just tell me what it is, and I'll give you some hemorrhoid cream for it." Cool, gotcha, doc. But but no, I had to say though, it was. I understand what you mean because you were integrated with us and you were held to a different type of caliber. You had to actually carry your own stuff. You had to carry the medic stuff, and your secondary job is supposed to be a rifleman. But I have seen enough docs out there that are like, you know what? I'll stop shooting when somebody else gets hurt. And that's exactly what you guys did. It was you guys were stellar.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a saying, Navy corpsman, tougher than a sailor, smarter than Marine.
So as much as I want to say that you guys are smart enough, but then decided to go join the Marine Corps. So who's stummer?
That's a hard decision, man. I mean, I think some people got kind of bamboozled into it, but yeah, it was just a hard decision. But again, no regrets. It's an incredible legacy, right? It's an incredible legacy. Everything ever since Iwo Jima and the raising of the flag, Doc was there with the Marines. I mean, it's the heart of the legacy, right? I will agree that the Marines are the men's department of the U.S. Navy.
But that's not hard.
It's not hard. But
It's
yeah,
not.
I just love me some Marines, man. It's like God bless the Marines, bro. Like the Devil Dogs, Leathernecks, the Jarheads, all of you, the Rocks. There's nothing like having a senior lance corporal, a junior lance corporal, and a boot ass lance corporal, all trying to tell each other who's in charge.
Oh man. But so this actually this is a great segue into it though. It's what I noticed, especially with the Marine Corps and people that were in there, there was a lot of the guys that joined the Marines, or even say corpsmen and Army dudes, that were looking for father figures. They joined the Marines actually looking to understand what a man is, and we were looking for something. And when we joined that, especially the Marine Corps, we started drinking the Kool Aid. It was almost kind of injected into our veins. I think that's what the peanut butter shot was. I think that's what you guys were lying to us about. And it was just, what is your feelings on that, based off of the way that you were raised, joining the corpsmen, and then like, do you see any similarities?
I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. That's my story too, bro. I mean, that it is like the law of attraction type stuff because I didn't just join to get the hell out of here. I didn't have structure. I never had that discipline in my life. I needed that. And it's like my mom, me and her fled from my father. She started another family. But again, I was kind of like the outcast because I was 12 years older than the new family, the children she was starting. So I became like a third parent. And it's like no one really ever parented me, bro. It's kind of a sad thing, but it's like when I look back, even in just growing up, I have a 16-year-old right now. I got an 18 and a 16-year-old. And my son, like, he's a saint compared to me, but there ain't no way he has the psychology to run the town the way that me and my friends used to run the town growing up. Like we were making adult decisions. Like everywhere we went, someone was just giving us stuff, taking care of us. It was the weirdest thing, man. And just another time frame. But yet I knew deep down that I needed structure and I needed discipline. And I joined the military because of that. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that experience because I consider myself a fatherless father. My dad died earlier this year. And it was a really interesting thing because I sat there at his deathbed and it was like I was looking at a man that I didn't know. And it was like, but I felt a connection with him. And yet there was compassion there with me. There was forgiveness. There was love. And I saw him as a brother. And I knew that for whatever reason, our time together in this lifetime was limited. And it meant it needed to be that way because I needed to go along the path that I've been on to get to this place right now. I would not be talking the things I'm talking about if I had it any other way.
So you talked about your DUIs, you talked about your domestic, you talked about your experience a little bit of different areas. You know what? Let me actually fast forward it to the Greg I met about 4 years ago. The dude that
Mm-hmm.
was hard charging, that wanted to get some stuff done, was like a philosophical football player. That's what you kind of look like to me, man. And you were just this big dude, long hair, great mustache. You were always playing with your mustache when I met you, and you were very wise. So, what created the shift? You said the rock bottom, but what allowed you to have that permission to have that huge shift in your mind?
I was tired, man. My breaking point wasn't so much the rock bottom. My breaking point was the fact that I was tired and responsible enough to say I can no longer continue going on with this pattern in my life, which was turning my pain into someone else's pain.
Hmm.
And the guiding light for me back then when I hit my rock bottom was one thing. It was so clear, man. You know what I wanted more than anything in this world? It was to be able to trust myself. And when I say trust myself, I am talking emotionally. I wanted to be able to trust myself emotionally in any situation, that if that I wouldn't lose control, and that I wasn't trying to hold on to control, that I could just know myself, and that I was in charge, that I had self mastery. And it took me blowing up everything. But the one warrior ethos that it took, I remember I was sitting there after my rock bottom, and I was trying to figure out which way was up, bro. And I was in a vet center, and I remember looking down, and they had these little keychains. And on the keychain it said it takes a real warrior to ask for help. And one of the problems with me was, there's three echelons of care. There's self-care, buddy care, and then it's corpsman. And so I'm the corpsman. I I'm taking care of myself. I'm the corpsman, man. I'm the third echelon of care. But it's like the plumber with the leaky faucet, right? I wasn't taking care of myself. All I was trying to do was self-medicate, was do the what I could do, what I had trained myself to do, to just numb the pain, regardless of the cost. And it took me hitting that rock bottom. And I share this story very clearly with you and your audience because if it can just reach one person, that you don't have to hit a rock bottom. You can hear this message and you can ask for help. It doesn't have to mean, you don't have to. A lot of us, we're stubborn, man. And we need that. We need that fire under our ass to finally say, I can't do this anymore. Now, here's the problem with that. I've helped a lot of men and women along my journey. Most of them, when they hit a rock bottom, when they have that crisis happen, they do enough to calm the waters, to clear the stormy skies. And then life starts to feel back to normal. And guess what? They regress. They basically say, you know what, I'm good. Look, oh yeah, my life's good. And they stop. When I hit my rock bottom this time, I said, I need to be able to trust myself. And I ain't stopping until I get there. And I have flipped over every single stone along the way. I had an attitude, bro, where I was just like, I want to try everything. You tell me that if I say these words that I'm healed, I'm going to try saying those words and I'm going to see if I get healed, man. If you say, hey, take this plant medicine and you're going to feel better and everything's going to be awesome, I'm going to try that too. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do the hypnotherapy and the cold water therapy and the talk therapy and the iron therapy and the nature therapy and the this therapy. I tried it all, bro, because I knew that what I wasn't sure. There's mystery to all these things. Everybody promises something, but I knew that what I needed wasn't a quick fix. I didn't want a cheat code, and I wasn't looking for temporary. I knew deep down something was out there that would unlock the parts of me that were constantly self-sabotaging so that I could make peace with it and ultimately get to a place where I now stand before you, a man that is well along the path of self-mastery, self-awareness. And when you found me, it was coming off of, I was only about 2 years removed from a 21-year marriage expiring. It happened peacefully, wasn't a big war, but I was having to find myself, and it took that. So I had the rock bottom 14 years ago, and I got divorced 6 years ago. That was another benchmark moment where I had to ask myself, and the marriage and the connection with my mom, I bring those back together because we are creatures of habit. There's patterns when we don't think there's patterns. And the woman I married at a young age in the military, right, was really just who I was trying to recreate a mother type figure with. And guess what? That means I wanted codependency. That means I needed trauma bonding. That means all the patterns I observed as a little kid, I recreated with a woman as a grown man. And it wasn't until that failed that I had to look myself in the mirror and look within and say, who am I? Ask yourself that. Anybody listening right now, have you ever asked yourself, who am I? And really sit with that.
What's You probably actually know this as well as everybody else that is listening or will listen to this. A lot of times we don't even know who we are. We have been moving through time so much, so frequently, running from one fire to the next, trying to put one out. All of a sudden, we're still trying to figure out who we are. When I think about the rock bottom that you were talking about, I had earlier that year. Actually, you met me 11 months after I almost ended my life, and actually 11 months and 3 days. And it was just, I realized it was kind of like that tower card out of astrology. I mean, everything fell apart. I realized that, you know what? I don't need to pick up everything. I could just leave it. I could leave some of the stuff behind. And trying to find out who I am and trying to find out what I can be, that was scary. Just like you said, trying everything, plant medicine, cold water plunging, worrying about your brown fat cells to the heat, the eyes. It's just, I get it, man. And I'm glad that you didn't do the quick fix. You're looking at actually allowing the wound just to be open and long enough so it can heal on its own instead of trying to shove shit in there.
Yeah, that's the process. I mean, and that's what I've learned, in my journey. My brand is results kill excuses, and it's because my excuses always killed my results.
Hmm.
And I was somebody that cut corners. I talked about it earlier. I was always looking for a cheat code, right? It was one of the first generations with Nintendos and Segas and Ataris. And it's like, once they gave you cheat codes, what was the point of playing the whole game when you could just go to the end? And it's like, but life doesn't work that way. And trauma isn't healed that way. I know I've never done one of the plant medicines I hear a lot about is ayahuasca. And I've listened to a lot of people and know people that have done it. And what they tell me is like, wow, it's profound. And you see the potential of who you can be. But here's the thing is it doesn't keep you there. And that's why people say they got to keep going back for it. And it's like, see, that's not it. Anytime you think you need something outside of yourself, you are robbing yourself of what you are here to do and to learn about yourself, because we have all the answers with us right here, right now. You don't need anything outside of yourself. And that is a big part of the alignment that I guide many people on, which is total health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and physical health. And so, mental health, the reason I preach sobriety, and the reason why sobriety is at the paramount is because if you are exposing your mind to any kind of chemical distortions, you will handicap yourself from fully being able to experience and sit in the fire, the mud of your life experience. And it's a scary thing, man, because here's the problem that most people get chickened out about. This is where it's a sense of cowardice, is that in order to heal the emotional wounds, you have to re-experience them in the now. If something happened to you and you were violated, you were harmed, you were assaulted, you were beaten, you were abused when you were 5 years old, you may be 40 years old, 50 years old. I've talked to people 70, 80 years old, man. And when we start talking about something that happened when they were 6, they start crying. Their anxiety goes through the roof. They're nervous. They're anxious. They're overwhelmed. They want to run and hide because the emotional wounds do not heal. We have suppressed them. And the more you suppress, the more you depress yourself. And what we truly need to do to heal is to reverse all that. And the way you reverse it is, yes, you have to re-experience this to get to the place where you can make peace, experience the emotion, name it, right? The emotional literacy is paramount. And once you can get to that, and sometimes you need the hand holding. I'm going to clause you. I am not a medical professional in this capacity now. I'm literally called to be a spirit guide, to help guide people. I was a guide in most of the platoons I was with. I am here to guide people along their journey. I am not to heal anybody. We have the capacity to heal ourselves if we can sit with ourselves and do the forgiveness work, to make peace with ourselves at the deepest level of who we are.
So, what's some of the challenges that we actually face when we are actually trying to heal, and what actually leads us towards self-sabotaging?
The biggest challenge is distraction, right? We're so distracted. I mean, everything wants your attention. And so instead of looking out the window and comparing, we need to look in the mirror. And the kind of funny thing about that is, even when you're looking in the mirror, when you're looking out the window, you're actually seeing a reflection of yourself, but in different ways. And it feels disassociating. And so the biggest challenge is when you have somebody that has, again, addiction. I'm not just talking drugs and alcohol here, and this. Addiction comes in so many different forms, and probably the biggest in this modern time is food.
Mm-hmm.
We have food addictions, the sugars, the sweets, the salts, the processed. We have addiction to gaming, to gambling, to sports and entertainment, to social media, to negative thinking, to people, to sex, you name it, shopping. I mean, everything now can be a way to give us a quick hit so that we don't feel bad inside.
Mm.
And so the biggest challenge is that, are people ready to make the choice? Because again, I'm not here to convince anybody to say, hey, the best life that I could have ever chosen is the sober life. I call it life on life's terms. No escape routes. Because here's the thing, man, if drugs, alcohol, or anything else, especially those were my vices, THC and alcohol. If those two were actually building me up and actually giving me some kind of a benefit to my life, I would still be all in on it. but I have completely disconnected myself from that. And it's like now I live life to the fullest because I'm no
Hmm.
longer attached to needing something outside of myself for me to feel good about myself, for me to feel stable, for me to feel secure with who I am, for me to even feel safe. And people struggle because a lot of people do the about face when I talk about sobriety, right? Clearing yourself from chemical dependencies. That's usually a big, like, oh man, what is that? I'm an adult, man. You're saying I can't enjoy a couple brewskis or whatever. I'm like, man, I ain't telling you anything. I'm just telling you that there is not one positive. Name one positive benefit alcohol has in your life. There's none. There's nothing positive. There's not one good benefit. You may say, oh, well, but the places I go to when I'm drinking, that's fun. It's like, yeah, but I promise you, I've been to all those places, done all those things, and I'd never needed alcohol. And I had an incredible time. And I'm probably one of the biggest characters there, right? Because I'm literally in my true and authentic self. I'm not having to wear a mask and pretend to be something I'm not.
I honestly feel like so many people just want to wear a mask because one is that they believe that the inner person is going to be rejected by other people, and two, it's to be fully rejected for who you are is one of the scariest things to ever come across. And having that facade on is, I'm not saying this is right. I'm saying this is some of the stuff that we think about subconsciously.
It's subconscious. Dude, again, I always say, here's I'll run you through a few things, and I agree with everything you just said, because that is a big part of it. We're social creatures. We crave connection. I always say the greatest gift that we get every single day is life.
Hmm.
186,000 people die every single day, right? There is no life without death. We need to really realize that, hey, this is special when you got it. Quit shitting it away. Quit pissing it away. Quit acting like you're helpless. But the second greatest gift is connection.
Mm.
And yet you're talking to somebody that, dude, I have the abandonment wounds. I have the rejection wounds. You know how I healed those things along my journey, right? Is I put myself in situations to be rejected over and over and over again. And what was cool is I went back in my history. One of my first jobs coming out of the military is I applied for this job. It was supposed to be sports marketing. You know what it turned out to be? Door to
Well,
door sales. It was door to door sales selling golf packages that was literally just a cardboard for $200, offering buy one, get one free rounds of golf at like these really nice golf courses. I learned about rejection doing that because there's something in sales called the law of averages. And
hmm,
I'll make this point because rejection, I just did a series of videos on my channel all about rejection, because what is the inverse of rejection?
connection.
Beyond that is acceptance.
Hmm.
It's acceptance, bro. We want to feel like we belong. We want to feel accepted. What do we want to be accepted by? Who we are. We want to be seen and heard. But most of us, we wear the masks because we have been told, usually 0 to 10, there's something wrong with us. We're not good enough being who we are. And so then guess what? Even at that early age, we start sacrificing and abandoning ourselves to be accepted by the people that should accept us unconditionally. But if they were emotionally unavailable, they would set parameters for attention, for affection, in all kinds of ways. And so that plays out throughout the course of our life. And so rejection is such a big thing. And it's like any phobia, man. If you're afraid of the dark, go put yourself in the middle of a dark forest and camp for a few nights. You'll get over darkness. If you're afraid of heights, go sign up to go skydiving. You'll get over your fear of heights. You have to face the fear. See, this is the goal, is can you face the fear? Face everything and rise, or false evidence appearing real? It's the fear, man. We need to tap into that warrior inside of us. I call all of my audience BAMF warriors, right? Because I know that in every single one of us, doesn't matter what your story is, every person on this planet at one time or another has had to act with valor, with bravery, with courage. And if we could do it once, guess what? You could do it again. But the way you overcome the rejection is to embrace it, to go find things where you get rejected and not be identified by that, because there's something, it's a reframe. I think my therapist was the first one to tell me this. Rejection is protection.
So I have a question. When I know we're coming up on about an hour right now. I love honestly your message, and I definitely want to jump on again with you another time. I've been trying to keep it for about an hour. Tell me a little bit more about your podcast and what is your message that you're trying to get out to people?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. And again, thanks for having me on the show. I do appreciate you honoring the time. Would love to come back anytime to talk, man. Anytime. I feel like I have an endless amount of medicine. I call my message medicine. And I don't really put a lot of labels on myself, but my channel is called Results Kill Excuses. I'm on YouTube. You can even go to resultskillexcuses.com. The one thing that I help people with is I am somebody that helps activate spiritual awakening in people. And by spiritual awakening, what am I talking about, man? I am a believer. This may take us into deeper conversations for the next time, but I have an incredible story for you, bro, especially for the military community, about reincarnation and my personal story. It's the most incredible story, bro. It's the most incredible story. But I'm going to save it for next time as a cookie for you guys to come back. Resultskillexcuses.com. You can go to YouTube. I put out regular messages, but I also have a program. It's called the Results Kill Excuses 1% Better Everyday Journal. Because what I have realized along my path are these 5 things. And the reason why these 5 things matter is because most people out there, we've all heard the story about, is the cup half full or half empty? Are you positive? Or are you negative? Are you optimistic? Or are you pessimistic? Most of us are running on fumes right now in this day and age. And I figured out how to keep my cup not only full, but overflowing. And it comes down to these 5 things every single day. And these are the 5 principles that I touch on and inspire others to embrace. And I'll break it down for you real quick. It starts with, I mind my mornings. I eat my health. I move my body. I learn every day. And the 5th and final one is the reason why me and you and our paths cross is I'm always willing to reach out and lend a hand to make a difference in this world. But the reason why I mind my mornings, that consists of positive affirmations, journaling, meditation, breath work, sun gazing, grounding. It's really where I create the intentions and visualization for my daily success. And the reason why it's 1% better every day is because we can get very overwhelmed with saying, how do I eat the elephant right here, right now? Versus, how do I just take one step at a time? How do I give myself more patience and more time by extending the horizon of my goals and be more realistic? That if I just improve 1% better every single day, then at the end of a year, you're actually 37% better, which is a huge quantum leap because it's compounded over time. And the mantra, it's really a mantra of saying no 0 days, no days off. So I mind my mornings. The reason why you see me as a beast and it's like I take such pride in my physical appearance is because I let myself go, man. I used to eat my feelings. And there was a time in my mid-30s when I got issued a CPAP and I had a regurgitation at night and my airway got closed off and I thought I was going to die. And yet I had to turn it all around, bro. And nutrition is the key. And the reason why nutrition comes before fitness is because when I had a nutritionist in the VA, she taught me about the 80-20 rule, right? Overall health is 80% nutrition, 20% exercise. Because if you are putting garbage in your body, it doesn't matter how hard you want to work out. And trust me, I tried it. Well, it wasn't until I put the proper fuel in my body that I started to lean out and even grow exponentially in my strength. I'm a guy, I'm all natural, man. I've never taken TRTs or any of this shit, dude. All natural. I'm picking up over 500 pounds on deadlift. I mean, it's just consistency, showing up. I don't do no pre workouts. If I go in there, I go in there for me. It's not for show. It's so that I can perform. It's so I can show up in life. The most inspiring people that I encounter doing the things I love the most, which is hiking in the mountains, is when I see people in their 70s and their 80s, man, still out there with packs and hiking. I'm like, man, high five. What the heck? And they see me with like 100-pound ruck and they're like, dude, look at you. And I'm like, nah, man, you don't even understand. I still have double my life to get to where you're at, and you're out here doing what I'm doing. What have you done? And even when you go to the gym, it's like you see the people 60, 70, why are you here? And they tell you, I wouldn't be here, meaning probably alive, if I wasn't still coming here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just re-engaging that it's being fit for life. It's taking care of this vessel. We're meant to move, we're meant to exercise, intense cardiovascular exercise, resistance training. Right. And I could get into a whole spiel about that, right? About the importance of retaining muscle mass in old age. That's why a lot of people get messed up when they break their hips. The other thing that I teach is number 4, being a lifelong learner, willing to learn new things every single day, try new things. There's also a thing when we become adults, we're afraid to be a newbie. We don't want to look stupid trying something. And it's like you stop living when you stop trying new things, because here's the truth. Listen, you guys, you don't know who you are. But when I say that is, you know who you've been, you know what you've been through, but you don't know your fullest potential by doing the things you feel comfortable doing. It's when no one knows who they could be if they tried this new thing that they've always thought about trying, but they've always had a reason not to try it. But they just said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to see what happens. I mean, I'm sure you had to cross a threshold by getting on this podcast. I had to cross a threshold by getting on there. And yet I try new things all the time. And that could be something from a new restaurant, going to a grocery store in the produce section and seeing a vegetable that looks so colorful and crazy, but you've never really messed with it. And you say, you know what, let me get this vegetable. Let me Google a recipe and let me try to cook a new meal. It shifts your life when you start doing new things. You may fail, you may fall on your face, but that's not final. Get back up, keep doing it. And the fifth and final thing is not the least, but it's to know that we're all in this together, man. We're walking each other home. We may see differences, especially when we're up close and personal, and we may, be raging about things and, color and social issues and important things. But at the end of the day, man, we're all a collective, the humanity, right? When we look at elephants, we think about all of the elephants. When we think of humans, we want to segregate ourselves and separate ourselves, but we're all connected energetically, bro. And so one of the things that's a big part of my life, and I know it's a part of yours, is saying, how can I make a difference in this world? How can I give back? But the thing is, I'll caution you, there was a time in my life that I used to go and serve others as a way to escape my own problems. And where I'm at now is I've dealt with my problems. So when I show up to serve others, guess what, bro? It's coming from a place of abundance, and that is the overflow. It is coming out of a place of excess and generosity and overflow. It's not coming out of a place of scarcity because I need to be told, yay, look at you. Aren't you awesome for helping other people? It's like, that doesn't matter. It's from the heart. It's from the purity. My house is in order, and now I can go and give more to others and expect nothing in return, bro. So thank you for asking about that. Those 5 things are really what keep my cup full. Do I hit all 5 every day? No. But if I'm at least 3 out of the 5, I know I'm over half full. I don't want to get to empty. I don't want to be exhausted. And I know that I have a choice each and every day to stay on this path. And I will make that choice because I know if for any reason I say, you know what, I don't need to do the mindfulness anymore. I don't need to eat healthy anymore. I've done it for long enough. I don't need to exercise anymore. That downward spiral comes so fast and quick, man. And I've experienced that on a few relapses in my life. And again, if you're somebody that's struggling with the addiction, I promise you, if you find sobriety, but you don't do the inner work, there's probably a good chance that you will have a relapse. And the scary thing is that you always go back to where you were, the worst of where you were, if not even worse.
Greg, I'm looking forward to catching up with you another time. And I wanted to let you know one of the people that was listening, or still is listening, he said, "Man over here preaching gave me chills. Very interesting perspectives. Thank you for sharing, Greg."
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here. To all your audience, again, check out Results Kill Excuses. I do one-on-one coaching. I got a lot of products, the 1% Better Everyday Journal. You can even go to the website, pick up some merchandise, and definitely subscribe to my channel and connect.
Well, thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for reaching out. I look forward to connecting